I can also record it here, or, oh yeah, okay, that's great.
I'm recording
You
now,
have,
so you have to allow it, so that you have to agree with this. Okay.
I
So
think
we're
I just
recording this time.
did. I think that I just said okay,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
and it worked. All
Yeah.
right.
So now
that's
it's probably
cool.
recording, and I will later on find it on my laptop, and then I will send it to your email address, and then you can view it and send it to anyone you wish. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure.
The I'm trying to make the screen what it was. Oh, here it is, view. I haven't used Zoom in a long time. I haven't been able to use it because of severe symptoms. And so my brain is sort of wacky.
Well, I hear you, and I can see you. You can see me. That's all it's needed.
So the sound is okay. I don't need to
Yeah.
use earphones or anything. We're okay.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes.
All right, great.
So as long as you can hear me, that's important.
So if I could say just for a moment to the people who will be watching this
Please
video
do, yes.
with us, and I want to make sure that I say your name correctly again because of my travails this morning.
Yeah.
Achim
It's
Lemke.
Achim.
Achim Lemke.
Yes, that's right.
All right, thank you. For those who are going to watch this, this is my friend Achim Lemke, who contacted me about memory at a very significant time in relationship to memory and in the cases of what so many of us are experiencing. So I think however we could just leap into the session that you would usually do with someone, and what I'll do is I will bring up concerns or questions that I know others have or may have, so that we can sort of include awareness of what they're going through while we're working with me. And that would be wonderful if that's all right with you.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. That would be so totally awesome. So it's a pleasure that I can sort of share my experiences with you. And normally what I do is I start with people on a completely different level. I start with them there where they have experienced their school days, you know, where there is a teacher at the front, at the blackboard or whiteboard, and lecturing down to the pupil, okay, to the pupils. This is what's usually happening. This is what they used to, even students, okay? So I would come with facts and how the brain works and things like that to ease them into what I'm actually going to do now. This is now already, let me just see, just a moment. So just to give you an indication. So that's already on page 22 in my book. So that is in the middle of the first course. Okay, because I don't want to bore you or anyone else with dull, dry, boring facts. Because that doesn't actually help and it doesn't work. You see, because the best kept secret is if information is difficult to learn, and all information that's coming our way is difficult to learn. The word information is difficult in itself, okay? It's difficult to learn. So you need to change it to make it memorable. And no lecturer, no book ever has touched that on that subject and presented information in such a way that makes it actually memorable for you. So the headline is make it memorable.
I like that headline.
Yeah. So how do
that
you make,
goes right with what we're working on lately.
Yeah, right. So how do you make any kind of information memorable? There's a one-word answer.
I can think of a lot of one-word answers: creativity, pleomorphism.
Yeah, all this plays into
belief.
it. All this plays into it, absolutely, okay? But there's one word, okay? And the word is imagination. Imagination. And it's interesting that you went like that and I went like that, because when we talk about imagination, most people, they put their hands up like this. Most people. I've noticed. I know I have taught this to hundreds of people, not thousands. I wish I could say that, but in the future it might be. Who knows? Through people like you, this information can go to thousands of people. Okay, so that's my aim. So imagination. And in the word imagination, there is a German word in it, Magie, and that means magic. So imagination is your magic, and it comes straight out of the heart. It's honest, it's childlike, it's vibrant, it's creative, it's energy at the moment. And then you can feel how alive you are. Napoleon once said, imagination rules the world. Okay, he lost in Waterloo, he lost, but he tried. He was brave enough to go for it because there was in his imagination, and he went for it. And this is what I'm saying to anyone, you know, if you can imagine something, just do it. You might fail, but you did it, and that's important. So you haven't failed because you did it. So you need to change information to make it memorable. So as long you can transform it back into its original form when the time comes. So learn it in a form your mind can handle. Okay?
I love the way you describe this territory. Please continue.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Okay. So your job, or any listener in the future, okay, is about to contact you or to contact me or to contact any of my previous participants and to ask the questions directly per email or to arrange such a Zoom session. So you're now here live, Max. I call you Max, right? I know your name is Max, but it could be that I could call you Elizabeth or.
You can call me Elizabeth. You can call me Max or Mac or Mo. All of these are in use.
Yeah, Max
is coming back into
really
use.
Cool name. Max is the cool name. I like it. Okay, right. So this is how I got to know you. Anyway, Max. So what I'm trying to say is that your job is to disbelieve what I'm saying. Your job is when I say make it memorable. So when I say to you, make it memorable, what pops up in your head? So you already had a reaction. Yeah, this is what we're here for. And that's what we want to learn, to make things memorable in our imagination. Okay. So when something comes up for you, you know, a thought or an emotion or a picture, tell me instantly. Your job is to interrupt me.
I can interrupt you. I'm good at that.
Yeah, that's very important. That's part of the process, you see, to ask curious, creative questions. Even if you think, I'm not talking about you now, but even if anyone thinks, this is a real dumb question, I better not ask it. No. When it's a dumb question, those are most of the time the best ones.
So far, the words you're using are so similar to the words that we have been using intentionally. So I'm just really enjoying the resonance so much. I want to say that part of our conversations recently, today is July 12th, 2021, we have been talking quite a bit about how we are all immediately in co-creative facility with the universe. What we are experiencing at any given time is creating these little feedback loops in our lives so that if we keep thinking a thing or if we keep feeling a thing, it can keep us getting more of that thing. And when we recognize that we're in a collaborative position, and that's not only with the elements we're aware of practically, immediately, like concrete things, but it's also we're in collaboration with the mystery of what happens next. And that's the only reason that I have been able to repair enough of my neurological function to talk to you like this today. That's how many of us are alive. So we are often in this network, we say survivors of severity, and it is often severely disabled people who have been told, you will never get better.
Wow.
You will never get through this. You have to rely on others to take care of you. You should not even have your own confidence. You should not want to do things for your own selves of your own right. And we are deprogramming that and creating resources for self-led reprogramming so that each person recognizes how powerful she or they can be in doing this every moment when we are all, and myself included, can be in horrifying amounts of physical pain that no one understands or knows about or has any concept of. So imagination and the magic that we are co-creating together, that for me is right in line with saying, in terms of memory, that we're bringing something of ourselves to it so that it changes in a way that is part of us and accessible and meaningful.
Right.
That's different. So that's where I'm at with what you've said so far, and also why I'm so delighted.
Yes, yes, because you know, we cannot discard it that we live in the universe, right? It's a fact that we live in the universe, and we are surrounded by energy. Wherever we are ourselves energy, and energy flows through us, energy comes out of us. It's all about energy, and we can transform it in such a way that it helps our brain to remember things if we wish to do that, but we just have to know how to do it. And for anyone who feels a little bit low today, okay, there are two things I would like to say. The first thing is, I've learned this from a coach or a group facilitator, okay, and from a woman, and she learned it from another woman, and she said, imagine there's a sieve inside of you. In your tummy, there's a sieve with a lot of holes in it, because that's the function of a sieve. And next time you feel despair, or you feel angry, or you feel afraid, or you feel sad, okay, any of those in brackets, negative emotions, okay, and you feel that, okay, the only thing you need to do is to hold yourself. Any woman who's got a child, knows that when a baby is not, when the baby doesn't feel well, the woman knows that, the mother knows it. And what does the mother do? She picks up the child and holds it. And this holding of it, so I'm done now. Whew, okay. This holding, what it enables you is to hold any of those emotions, okay? Doesn't matter how strong they are or soft or whatever, you just hold it. You can be in public, you can be with your friends, and you can listen to them. See, I even can talk as I'm holding myself. So I'm feeling an emotion right now, okay? And when I let my hands down, then it's gone, okay? So I'm trying through acting do something now. What comes up in my head is to pretend I'm sad. Okay, I'm just before trying to cry. I'm feeling really sad at the moment. So I'm holding that sadness. I'm holding it. It's real. I'm feeling a sadness. I'm really sad at this moment. Oh, I'm a little bit angry as well. So I'm holding it. I'm holding it. I'm holding. Oh my God, I'm holding it. I'm really holding. I'm holding my sadness. I'm holding my anger. Two feelings at the same time. I'm holding it. I'm holding it. I'm holding it. I'm holding it. I'm holding a little bit more deliberately. And then it dissipates. It's gone. So at the beginning, it was acting, but then it was method acting. And then it was bloody real. I could really feel the sadness. And bam, some anger came along. My God, and I'm really feeling angry again. So I'm feeling a little bit angry now. So I'm holding that anger. You see, I'm holding that anger. I'm holding it. I'm holding it. I'm holding it, and it disappears. So now let me explain what I just did. Okay. So I've got an emotion. I feel an emotion in the body. So it's not a feeling. A feeling's in your head. That's thinking. So first is thinking. You think about something negative. So your mind is thinking about something negative. Then you hear the negative thought, and then you have a feeling, and that feeling is triggering emotion. And when you feel that emotion, hold it, I'm saying, hold that. Okay, so what happens is you actually, when you hold it, you're stuffing one of those holes with cotton wool. You're stuffing cotton wool in one of those holes. Okay, and if you got a lot of holes stuffed, you can hold onto that feeling three quarters of all your feelings are somewhat negative in your perception. They're not negative, they're just signals. Emotions are signals to say what's going on in the body. And there's one emotion that we really appreciate, and that's happiness. To feel happy. To feel happy. Okay? So and then a lot of people say, so why should I hold on to these negative emotions? I want to get rid of them. And this is exactly what society has taught us. Okay? But if you stuff these holes, you can also then hold on to what? Happiness. Happy feelings when they come. So when I'm really happy, I don't need to do this. I'm just feeling happy. Okay? So happiness. How do you get happiness? It starts off by looking into the mirror every day, looking at yourself and saying, I'm enough. I'm enough. You know what? I'm enough. You know what? I'm enough. And your mind cannot say anything against it because you are enough. So you keep on saying, I'm enough in your mirror, looking at yourself until you really feel that you're enough. And then maybe even hold that you are enough. And then when you know that you're enough, other people will know as well. They sense your vibration. Yes, you wanted to say something.
I
That's
want
your
to
job to
say
interrupt me.
that for some who may not be able to look in a mirror or don't have access to a different space or something like that, what we are often doing is we're closing our eyes and breathing and imagining that all of our cells are saying something at once or are feeling something at once. And maybe some of us can imagine our own bodies and faces, and there's a lot of body dysphoria from physical trauma where our bodies don't feel like our bodies are supposed to. We're not connected to our bodies in the ways we want to be because of things that happened. And when that's the case, there are many different imaginal resources for how we can adapt. So, I mean, we're talking about memory and making it personally meaningful to us, but also a piece of information that doesn't seem like we could use it can be adapted, can be translated to our body's way of understanding it. The more we get to know our bodies and get through recovery processes.
That's right. That's correct. So you see, like even blind people, people who are blind from birth, that can see in their brain. They see things. They can describe things. You can describe things to them, and they can see it. This is what the brain is capable of. People who have been born deaf, people who can absolutely not hear, they're hearing sounds. They're learning. They can learn. They can read things. They can see things, and they can imagine what it sounds like because they can feel it in the body.
Yes, and when we are tuning into our bodies, this is part of how intuitive public radio started, tuning into what we need to tune into most. When we're talking about that, we're also talking about a lot of people who are severely disabled, severely affected, who are going through violence now or have been through violence they haven't recovered from, where if we recognize that we can tune into ourselves and our cells in these ways, we are also recognizing every day more and more of an emergent psychic tool set that we're in field resonance with the people around us. So whatever our disabilities are, whatever our circumstances are that we're navigating, our different ways of being in the world, there may be something we feel we don't have access to at all, but just coming into contact with others in certain ways can allow us to absorb abilities to do things, ways of understanding things, ways of adapting to a situation that we never thought of before. So that's imaginal resources also. I
Yes,
just want to call that
absolutely.
out.
That's right. And it's good that you mentioned that, because it is absolutely vital for our survival to be in contact with other people. Okay, because then our mirror neurons are being activated, and then you can so you actually become like the people you surround yourself with, right? And
Mirror neurons are one of our favorite subjects.
yeah, right. So so this what we can also, when we can see each other like this, your mirror neurons are activated. So that's why learning, it's much better to do it face to face like this. So let's go back to the imagination training. When I was teaching at schools, I always had the pleasure in when I had lunch with teachers. Okay, I always tried to steer the conversation in such a way of memory. You know, saying to the teachers, you are giving your students so much information, they can't digest it all, and it's just too much for them. Okay, what the education authority asks you to do, and with all your teaching abilities, you yourself couldn't even remember 4 words. If I would give you 4 words now, in weeks to come, you wouldn't remember any of those words, and not even in the and the question is to repeat them in the right order, just 4 words. And the words are box, tree, car, cake. So I say it slowly: box, tree, car, cake. So you heard me. And then education theory says, say this in the session at least 3 times for people to remember. Okay. So and this is how it's done at school, but it doesn't work. So I say this to the teachers, and then occasionally, so most of them, they agree. Okay. And then I say, okay, I'm going to put up the ante, and I say, I bet. So I live in Germany, so we've got euros here. So I say, I bet you 1,000. I used to start off with 100. Okay, but I say nowadays, I bet you 1,000 euros. When I ask you next time, it might be after 6 weeks or 2 months or 3 months. I'll ask you, what were the 4 words 3 months ago? And if you can say box, tree, car, cake, I give you 1,000 euros instantly. So when I ask you, I will have the 1,000 euros in my pocket, okay, because I know, I'm confident you can do this, to say box, tree, car, cake. So inevitably, my experience is that most teachers come back to me after about 6 weeks or so. They come to me, Achim, I remember those words. I remember them. And they were tree, cake, car. And I said, yeah, there were 4 of them. Yeah, no, 3. You said tree, cake, car. Tree, cake, car, you said. And I said, there's 1 word missing. There were 4. No, there were not. There were 3. And you didn't say them in the right order. It goes tree, car, cake, not what you said. And I even remember what you said. You said tree, cake, car, but it's tree, cake. No, you said tree, cake, car, but it's tree, car, cake. And the word you've forgotten is box, tree, car, cake. So, yeah, okay. So if that was now the real situation, you have to give me now 1,000 euros. It happens every time, okay? So that's my pleasure, okay, to do that. Because normal people cannot remember normal everyday words. So here are these 4 everyday words. So picture each of them in your imagination with as much clarity as you possibly can. So I want you now, Max, I want you to now see on your desk or wherever you are, I presume it's a table desk thing, situation there, Imagine there's a box in front of you. I want you to see that box. Okay, there are people who say, no, I cannot see it. I don't have a visual memory. I say, okay, I understand. Okay, then I say to them, do you go shopping? And they say, yes. Well, for this, you have to have a visual memory. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to go shopping. Do you drive a car? Yes. Do you remember where you parked your car? Yes, most of the time. But sometimes I forget because I don't have a good visual memory, they say. But have you ever found your car again? Yes. Well, then you can visualize things. Okay. So it's a myth that people cannot see pictures because the brain actually thinks in pictures. We are not aware of it. You don't have to be aware of it. You just have to imagine if there was a box, what would it look like or what would it feel like when we come into the details. Now I want you to push that box aside physically like this. I want to see that you do this, push your box, that's it. And now I want you to put a tree there. I want you to put a tree there. Can you see a tree? Yes. Yeah. You know, like Waldorf school, their schools, they act words out and things like do it wonderful. Have you been to such a school?
We are connoisseurs of these kinds of learning modalities. We
Yes.
love talking about this sort of thing.
Brilliant.
So we're familiar with
it
a
really
bunch of
works.
things.
Really works.
Yes.
Okay, so now I want you to push the tree to another side. So go like that, the tree to somewhere else. Now I want you to imagine a car. There's a small car on your desk. See the car. Okay, right? So now I want you to push this aside. Okay, now I want you to see a cake. So alone that will help you to win these 1,000 euros in 3 months. But my trick is I never ever go up to those teachers and ask them because I don't want to lose 1,000 euros. So as I said, after about 6 weeks, they come to me and this is what happens. This scene that I just explained to you. Now, add some sense information. Return to each item and imagine it from different angles. You walk around it and see it from above and getting inside of it and looking out. So what I want you to do is, I want you to see your box. Take your box again in front of you. And now I want you to, that's it. So now as you're touching your box, I want you to lift up your box and look underneath it and use now your imagination what could be possibly under that box that you didn't see before. And then you can put it down again. So what was under your box that you didn't see before?
A tree and a car and a cake.
Yes, I understand what you do. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. But those are separate items. They have nothing. One has nothing to do with the other. Okay. So
I was being quippy. I saw the bottom of a cardboard box with its the cardboard box is sort of, it has these flaps that are.
There's a flap. And did you notice anything else there underneath on the bottom?
It sort of had shadows.
Yes. Okay. Good. Okay. So you saw something that you weren't aware before. That's my point.
Oh yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So what you also could do is which you don't have to do now, is you also could take that box, put it on the floor and walk around it and see it from all angles. No, you don't have to do that now. So now what I want you to do is I want you now to look at the tree and see it from above. Imagine you're a bird, so it's a bird's eye view, or on your smartphone, you have the on the screen you can see what a drone can do. But it's much better to be a bird. Okay, so in a bird's eye view, I like to fly over that tree, and so here's your tree, and you fly over it and see it from above. So you see and experience the tree differently, doesn't it? Don't you?
Yeah, it's like looking down at a cheetah pet. Yeah,
that's right. So rather than as a human looking from underneath and seeing the branches, but not seeing all the leaves from above like a bird would do. Okay, so now I want you to get the car again, but this time it's the car full size, and I want you to go inside of it. I want you to get inside of it, and I want you to look out of the car. Right? So those are different experiences. Okay, so now imagine touching the item. What does it feel like? Okay, so you go back to the box, your card, before it was a cardboard box. And every time you touch the box, it could be a different box. It's the same box, but a different surface or whatever. So what I want you to do is, I want you to put your hand on top of your box, and I want you to feel, what does it feel like to the touch? What does it feel like? Could you describe it?
It feels like I am a gigantic person, and there is an Apple store, and it is made of glass. It's one of those boxy glass Apple stores, like the one in New York, and I'm going, wow, I'm so big. I could do anything I wanted to this Apple store.
Yeah, amazing.
That's the experience I just had.
So that, see, there's imagination live there. What we just experienced was imagination. Now, most people, you are a lively person and you're very talkative, and you use words really well, okay? But there are people, within my experience, you know, over 700 people I've been teaching this so far, okay? And most of the people, they have a grid here, you know, things can come through, okay, through this grid, but it's like this, a grid like this, and only through the holes, some imagination can come through, okay? So I ask them this kind of question: what does it feel like? What does it look like? And then there's information that wants to get through, okay? Maybe just a little bit comes through, okay? But not enough, okay? And so the people have learned to block themselves, but also it means nothing can get in. But when you do this and you just talk and you just say, oh, I'm at the Apple store and there's a glass box and what can I do? I'm a gigantic person, and so forth. And you go crazy like that. You let it run riot with your imagination. What happens is then you also will open your heart, and also you letting things in. And that makes all the difference. This is what this training is really about. Okay, well done with the box. So it's smooth, it feels like glass. So so now we go looking at on the tree. Yeah, we're going back to the tree and do something like hugging the tree or get very close to the tree. And is there any smell? When you smell the tree and you go, is there a smell about the tree? What does it smell like?
It smells like bark and bugs, and some kind of fungus is grown in there, and moss and leaves, and probably bird poo.
Yeah, that kind of smell. You can smell that, yeah? So,
yeah.
so there's not a description of what you see. You know, it's a description of what all these things smell like. What does bird poo smell like? What does moss smell like? What does bark smell like? Right? Okay. And what you just did is extraordinarily important for imagination and for memory, is when you have this emotion you just had. You were laughing. You know, this
really important.
That is
really,
important.
really important.
It is so vital. You also could go sad about something. You also could get angry about something. So it's about emotions, but we're not there yet.
And it's okay for us if we resonate and remember something meaningful because it's a challenging thought or feeling or emotion in some way, or if it's associated with pain in the body, it's okay to remember that, because it's part of expressing it and processing it and taking charge of our circumstances, being able to be confident, imagining our newer, better circumstances as part of our memory repair.
That's right. And those are only the first step. They're so human, but they're only the first steps towards memory improvement. Okay. And I'm not here only to improve your memory. I'm also not here to place things into your long-term memory. I'm here to help you to get into permanent memory. In permanent, that's my hand is in my permanent memory sphere, which you have to create and construct all by yourself. I help you with this, but you have to do it yourself. And when you place things in there, you don't forget anything that's there. It's a little bit like this. What is this called again? I know what it's called, but I'm asking you.
An elbow.
It's an elbow, okay? So when was the last time that you had to practice that you on your body, that this is your elbow? When was the last time you remember you had to practice?
Well, I don't know if this is diverging from your line of narrative or not, but I'll explain. Me and many others, most others in the network have been put in a position where, because of environmental contaminants, compounded sensitivities, and protracted physical trauma, we start from scratch neurologically over and over again, many of us, most of us, in circumstances that are causing repeated brain damage. And so most of the people absorbing this will be very intimately familiar with having been completely neurologically wiped out and having to what is this, what is a fork, how do I feed myself, what are parts of my body called, how do I stand or walk, how do I understand something someone's saying to me. There's so many, all of it
I see.
has to be rebuilt over and over again.
Okay,
and
okay,
so
okay.
that's
So then this will
familiar
really
sort of
absolutely help you, okay, to start off from scratch, okay, right? Okay, those are principles that you can apply, okay? So for people that it hasn't happened to, you can probably appreciate that other people don't ever rehearse or practice that this is an elbow. Why is that? Because wherever you go, you take the elbow with you. It's a it's a it's a joke invented by memory experts, people who have expanded and trained their memory in such an extensive way that they don't have to um, uh, practice those things anymore. Okay.
like being stored in the body, like
Yes,
memory being
that's
stored
right. It's
permanently
embodied.
as part of the body.
You have an embodiment of elbow or nose or whatever. Okay.
And whether we know the word or not, this part is always here with what I
Yes.
mean. Maybe it's another part for
Yes.
someone who may not have the same parts that we do.
Like for example, um, um, I, I'm not familiar with some of the things that you're talking about. I can imagine it, but um, my I have worked with Down syndrome people. I have worked with people who've got spasms, who've got an IQ of 70. Okay, I've worked with blind and deaf people and people who have got both, and I work with them. And if it works for them, it can work and as long as you've got at all any brain function. So the question is this. I'm going to do like this. I'm going to point onto a body part, and you just repeat me, okay? You just repeat. It's just a mirror. So it means that your neurons or your body functions well enough to work with me. If I do this and you do this, then somebody like this perhaps has to be observed by neurologists or whoever experts can help them. Okay, I can't help them. You get
I will say also that the members of our community are generally in our community because they have been excluded from reaching any professionals or
for
experts in the
example.
context. But what we do really experience is that when we have any kind of contact with one another that is caring, any kind of contact that is respectful, and you're noticing this with you, I wasn't able to communicate with you this well when we were in certainly not email, but even in Telegram. And part of it is because you speak a language that's very familiar to me for
Okay.
my real safety,
Yeah.
and that a lot of my function just emerges on that basis.
Hi.
So we find
Wonderful.
that even if we have differences, like you are saying, we come to learn one another's languages. It doesn't ever have to be verbal either. There are also nonverbal languages. So that's how we navigate that.
Yeah, that's correct. So and so like there are emotions that you feel emotions. There's body language, okay? Um, and with your senses, you can pick up so much, and it's all non-verbal, okay? So and the idea here is if you want to improve, or it's about learning anything or remembering anything that you want to, okay, is to use all these non-verbal functions that the body, not automatically, but it's a little bit like my heart beats. If I now would have to control that my heart beats and that my lungs breathe, I wouldn't be able to say anything. My whole brain would be so like. So if you can, so what I was trying to say is that if you can breathe, if you breathe, if your heart beats, if your brain uh, uh, is awake, okay, then you can learn anything through mimic, through body interaction, whatever. Okay.
And we feel strongly that all brains are awake.
Yes.
That we are all in there, people and beings who have been called not alive or not capable. It never turns out to be true.
No, absolutely
if you
not.
love and respect
Absolutely
them,
not.
all beings are living.
As I just told you, I've worked with Down syndrome people who are very loving and they hug you and are very friendly, okay? And other neurologically damaged people I've worked with. And nowadays, you don't say anymore spastic, but with people like that. And then with all sorts of people,
Movement
and
disorders.
they all have, that's right, they all have improved their I don't give anything for intelligence, you know. Just because somebody does an IQ test and has a high score doesn't mean that they're smarter than somebody else. Okay, I don't give anything for it. But what I'm trying to say is that through these techniques, all these people, they have raised their IQ dramatically. We're talking about 20, 30%.
Growing those neurons,
yes,
which is our thing. We do every
right.
day.
That's right. But the effects are so huge that is absolutely amazing. Okay, so and so what I do is help people to get into a sphere, okay, a protective sphere that they build themselves and place everything that is precious and valuable for them, like memory, in there. Nobody can get to it, only you yourself. It's like your private sphere. Okay, in German there's a word for it. It's called in English it's called privacy, and in German it's called Privatsphäre. So there's a sphere in it. Okay, so private. So it's your private sphere. But this is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a permanent memory sphere. So when you put things in there, you won't forget anything anymore. You don't have to rehearse anything. It just will be there when you need it. Okay. So let's get back to the imagination. Okay. So now I want you to take the cake. Take the cake. We've been all waiting for the cake, and I want you to taste it. Tell me what your cake tastes like. Not so good?
Well, I could explain to you why, but it would take a long time. And I know we're getting towards the end of our session here somewhere. Whenever time is good for you, I'm sort of okay. I'll be okay for a little while longer.
Me too. Me too. Yeah, we're in it as long as it flows. I'm all right. As long as the exercise is finished.
A lot of us have been poisoned by wheat and sugar.
Yes.
I am a person who's very lucky because of the resourcing that we have gathered collaboratively. I've been able to repair my digestion in certain ways recently that is allowing me actually to imagine there's the old kind of cake that I would never eat again. And there's a new kind of cake that I now know how to make from
Wonderful,
the things I've been able to repair. My digestive neurology, even my digestive memory is so important in this context.
Yes.
Because I have those foods that I can eat now that's so amazing. I am imagining how I make that cake. So I was first it was the not good kind of cake, like when I was a kid, the kinds of cake that we were fed were not so good. But now I know that, for instance, I could ferment teff flour overnight or over 2 nights, and then I could put it in the oven with frozen sour cherries in it, and it would be like a kind of moist cherry bread. And then I could make a kind of icing out of raw cream cheese from a farm that's been collaborating with us. And I could flavor it with this bilberry blueberry or bilberry. There's an antioxidant powder that's one of my necessary things right now. So I am imagining a cake that sounds quite nice. Thank you for this portion of the conversation.
Right. So blueberry, I love blueberries because they're very good for your brain. Yeah.
Oh,
And so are walnuts and everything. So there's actually food, and there's food and cake, types of cake that's actually very good for your brain. So so add as many details as you can to your imaginary pictures. So next, practice information to make information unusual. So anything is possible in your imagination. So make sure that each of your 4 images are as usual as possible, as unusual, I mean, and you could visualize the object in a strange place. I like you now to take the tree and see a tree in a really strange place, in a really odd place where it could never survive.
I hope I'm not about to derail you again. I imagined the tree shaped like a box with a car inside it, and on top of the car is a giant cake.
Okay, you can do all this, okay? Nevertheless, take the tree, okay, and put it on the box or in a box. Okay, you can do that, okay? But I'm sure you're a little bit more imaginative than that. So what? So tell me a really strange place.
The trees I am imagining are actually the trees of my neurology.
Aha!
Inside my brain,
Wow.
Inside
your brain,
and in my body
are trees. Yes.
Yes.
So
and the vagus nerve, the center of compassion. Yes.
Yes, that's right. You see, like so we've got 3 brains, okay, in 2 halves like this. There's a top brain and a bottom brain, and our heart also has neurons. It's also a brain, and our digestive system also has neurons. Our digestive system has as many neurons like a dog's brain. So inside, you actually have a dog that you can train. You can train him to sit, you can train him to fetch a stick and digest cake.
Oh, what a great set of analogies. I appreciate your words very much.
So you basically are at the moment today in this snapshot right now, you are actually a tree woman. So on the outside, you look human, but on the inside, you're really a tree, okay? And that is the most unusual thing I've heard from over 700 people. The strangest, I've heard strange things like on the moon and in the deep ocean. Okay.
Oh.
And all the other people weren't that imaginative. You are actually on this subject the most imaginative. I've never heard anything like this. This is true imagination here and there.
We have been able, one of the things that I wanted to say earlier, but I didn't want to change our direction, is that.
But that's your job to change direction. It's your job.
Yeah, you did say that. I remember now.
Yeah.
We in the situations that we're in, that most of us, our core organizers, are all in very extreme situations right now. And what we find is that one of the reasons that certain kinds of gaslighting and abuse continues to our communities is that when we encounter very severe trauma that other people don't understand, that is very physical, that can kill the person over and over again, even if the body still seems alive, the person can be gone and have to build back. And so when that's happening that way, it's often happening because in the trauma, we emerge with very new neurology to adapt to the situation, to grow the tool sets that we need in order to address it. And so, for instance, when you started at the beginning of this session, I started doing all of these memory tricks that I have accumulated over the years. I was in creative careers before a lot of very violent things happened in my life. And so that has been a privilege that I recognized I had, that most of the people through the network had not had necessarily, but that survivors of these kinds of situations are often doing that in a way that other people look at and go, well, for instance, I did a memory test as part of navigating a very abusive neurological medical context. And they said, oh, you're fine. But I had to use every new amazing tool set that I had accumulated in order to survive, in order to be fine. And of course, I wasn't fine. But so the thing that I wanted to say earlier was that we have these amazing, there are these amazing abilities that we develop. And then there is this whole swath of things that is denied us if we are still in violence, if there's still something violent happening. A lot of times not being able to remember something is a very serious problem all through our life, because it's paired with where we are being caused terrible ongoing pain and suffering. And so if something comes and gets me, or like I have an accident because of a disability that's unsupported, or there are all kinds of ways that we could be in violence that we know about. When those things happen, people in our communities have felt especially vulnerable, because others look at the things we can do and they falsely extrapolate that we could, of course, get ourselves out of that situation because they would be able to. But those are the places where through trauma, we are needing to rebuild our memory through relationship and imagination and resonance. And helping one another and respectfulness. And so that's like, it's different than many people, maybe many people you have talked to, but also it sounds like many people you have talked to have had some overlap into our spheres of experience.
So imagination is a skill that first of all, it's very human, but then it has been suppressed when we got older, because we've been told as children to stop playing and don't tell me so flippant stories. Don't use your that's all fantasy what you're telling me about, adults say to children. Learn something useful, you know. And then we have stopped our imagination, and that is something very cruel that adults have done to children, and it's still going on. And I'm here to help change that. Okay, you've been talking about violence and things like that, and later on I'm gonna be a little bit violent, but it's just play, but just to illustrate something. But first of all, so the next practice is, as I said, to make things unusual, and we talked about this tree that inside of you, your nervous system and your neurons and things that are trees, and they actually look like branches, don't they? So now I want you to look at your car, and that your car is doing some odd things. What kind of odd things could your car do?
It's growing branches all on the inside. Why is it doing that? It might be because it's growing its neurology.
Yeah.
In response to us caring for it.
So even the cables in the car are like branches, like tree branches, and growing neurology inside the car. That's the next step in car development. You know, forget about electrical cars. It's going to be neurological cars. You know, self-thinking.
Oh yes.
That's the next stage. Yeah. Okay. So and now I'm going to tell you about my cake. Okay. So so this cake is has the ability to become very large and incredibly small. And it's like this. So here in front of me is a normal cake. So I would like to cut a piece of cake of that. But strangely enough, the closer I get to the cake, the smaller it gets, and it gets so small, like a molecule. I can't even see it anymore. And now, when I'm actually leaving the room, then it gets so big that it takes over the whole room. And now I'm coming back. And there's a lot of chocolate, mousse cake. There's a lot of chocolate on the camera and on the on the keyboard. There's lots of chocolate mousse on there, and I'm scraping it off and I eat it. But the cake itself doesn't let me get close to it. It becomes very small. When I get away, it becomes very big. Okay, so that's my exaggerated story. And this is what you need to do: is you have to exaggerate and make the images bizarre, and so that they become memorable. And now we come to the feelings. Okay, the feelings are in your head. They are stimulated through thoughts. So if you think something, the feeling comes up, and this feeling creates an emotion, physical feeling in the body. Okay, and so like these feelings are also important. To practice the skill of inventing an emotional reaction to information. So I'm just acting now. Okay, so don't get upset. Okay, so so I'm going to use this information, and I go back to the first word box. Do you already have a memorable picture in your mind about this box? But my task now is to imagine to destroy it. And how would I go about wrecking the box? And what would it feel like if I would rip it apart and set it on fire and attack it with a chainsaw?
Oh, we just brought up a bunch of feelings I have about the Apple company, and I mean, we can set that aside for now. But I may have had a few little ideas about what Monster Me might have done to that tiny Apple store.
So do you see?
Blessings to the Apple store. Blessings to the Apple store that has provided some of our technology. Blessings to the Apple store.
Yeah,
we can work with it.
That's right. Okay.
It's just imagining. We're imagining things.
There was the glass box from your Apple store, okay, which I destroyed, and I broke it, and you see, and this small demonstration. So, like for example, in my case, I enjoy it every time. I enjoy acting up and being a rebel and doing these destructive things because I'm not allowed to do this in reality outside. But in my imagination, I can do it in this case. And therefore, I reckon men in particular love watching violent movies, okay, which is very unhealthy for you. I've got an ad coming up here. Okay, just to get rid of. But since I now and then again can tell the story about this violent act, I don't have to think about these things anymore. I have calmed down a lot, okay, and I don't need to watch these violent movies, okay. If I see too much violence on TV or Netflix or Amazon, I switch it off or I forward it. I don't need it. It doesn't make any sense.
You're getting to express what was maybe trapped in your body and it being externalized. Right. But when you can express it, you come into a healthier, balanced relationship with it, and you can kind of let it go. That's or right. go down through the sieve.
So it's a little bit like, it's like finding out about it and then hugging your shadow side. That's this. Whenever I find something, like for example, watching something on TV, seeing something, okay? They're showing these days all sorts of things. And then there's something I disagree with. Why do I disagree with it? Because there's a part in me that wants to be like that. And that's not nice. Okay? So that's my shadow side. So I have to acknowledge, oh my God, I could be doing this. And then I hold myself, hold it, and let it integrate and acknowledge. I'll just give you an example of what is acceptable, okay? Every human being has a small racist in themselves. Everyone, there's no exception. Anyone who says I haven't got a racist, they are a greater racist than they can think of, okay? So I have a very small racist in myself, okay? And I think things too, but I keep it for myself and I keep the racist small, okay? I don't hide it, okay? I'm openly saying I'm a racist, but I can control it to let him be that small. And I'm also a lot of other unpleasant things, and I keep letting them being small. Because if you start denying it, it will grow in the background, and it will come through the back door in again, and then you're in trouble.
We say that it gets stuffed in the shadow bag.
Yes.
And if things get stuffed in the shadow bag and not let out, they can get really big and angry and upset, and they're being hurt and deprived of light and understanding. And then they can bust out of the shadow bag. So yeah,
there is someone, I don't want to name any names here, okay? But there is someone who has described it really well. I haven't heard anyone else yet to say it. And he names it the pain body. Okay.
Oh yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, you know who I'm talking about. Okay.
I do.
So, okay, right. So I personally call it the arguing body. Okay. So it's the real entity inside of you who grabs you by the neck, pulls you outside the door, and looks for someone to argue with. So imagine somebody like that, and then somebody else meeting themselves in each time in a different car on a junction. Okay, they want, both of them, they want a car accident. They want this to happen. They're not conscious of it, right? But so you have to find ways of feeding this pain body, and it starts like this. As I said earlier on, I'm enough. I'm enough. And hugging yourself, whenever you have an emotion, you hug yourself, because then that's it. Yeah, right. It's this hug that acknowledges, yes, I would love to have a terrible argument with you. I would love that, okay? Because I need to be fed, okay? But I say, no, I don't want an argument with you because I've chosen not to, because I'm enough. I can hug myself. I can hold myself back. I can give myself gratification later on. You know, the marshmallow effect. Yeah,
and then when we let it go, does it, when we let those feelings go, do they go down through the sieve?
No, you hold it. You know when you can let go, because it will dissipate, and then you have stuffed a hole with cotton wool. You've stuffed a hole, and then the more holes you stuff, the more the feelings will stay with you. The more the shadow side, and out comes the light, will stay with you. We are not here to shine light on other people. No, we are here to recognize that we are light inside of ourselves. Okay, but if you let it all flow out through the holes, then there's no darkness. No, you become an empty body. That's why you become depressed. You don't feel anything.
So when it dissipates, it can go downward. We often have meditations where we let something difficult sink down into the earth. We give
that's
it to
that's it. That's exactly the same effect. Yeah, to let the time, like there's an incredible, brilliant, bright, white, sharp, heating light going through my body, heating me and going into the earth, centered in the earth. So, but you also have to send as well. I'm sending light up, and light is coming to me. So it's an exchange of energy. Everything is just energy. You can't create it and you can't destroy it. You can change it. You can just change the vibes or whatever. You can change yourself through eating differently, etc., etc. So, so now imagine you are scared of the tree. Okay, so I'm acting it out a little bit. So I've got a tree. Don't do anything. No, don't do anything. I'm scared. Okay, so for that fraction of a second, I had an image of a dark tree. You know, I can hear owls, and there's full moon, and you know, there are no vampires, but something that kind of feel. You know, like a horror scene at that moment, and I'm really scared. And acknowledging that fear. You know, whew, I don't want to do that to you. Okay. But this is what you have to go through in order to remember the tree, to acknowledge that you can be scared of anything, and you do as if. And you can't stop until you really are afraid of that tree, as an example. Okay? So how could you use your imagination to make this tree the most frightening thing in the world.
Oh, I like this exercise very much. This is also something that we do when something is when we don't know how to deal with an energy. We sort of position ourselves in theatrical roles, and we look at the energy that we might feel trepidatious about, and we intentionally increase it, or perhaps we step into the role of it and imagine it being bigger. So
Yeah.
I don't know if this has to do with where you're going.
You have to exaggerate it. And that is healing. That's the point. Okay.
Yes, and it changes it in a way that is in our control,
Yeah.
and that we can sort of understand if we consider ourselves to be in that role in any way. And then we can co-create with it. We can transmute together very differently when we do that. And then often we realize there is nothing that was really necessary to be afraid of, or we realize that our wise bodies know the solution.
Yes.
If we're listening in these ways.
That's right. So it's about listening, holding yourself, being aware of it, and all these tools. They will all help you to deal with, in this case, fear. Okay, and fear is only a signal of possible bad things that could happen to you. Okay, and if you prepare in the act of preparing, or in the act of doing, you're not anymore afraid. So there's an echo, a background fear, but you go ahead and do it anyway. There's someone, I don't want to name, I know her name. She wrote, "Feel the fear and do it anyway." So I can say these kind of things. I'm not here to do any advertising for anyone, but that book saved my life. So it's about you have a you're a little bit agitated or nervous or whatever, but you go ahead and do it anyway.
Well, I've heard of this book, and I do want to ask you who the author is, if you don't mind sharing.
Susan Jeffers.
Jeffers.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to look that up, because I've run across that a few times. Thank you for mentioning it.
It saved, no, I through reading that book, it saved my life once. Yeah. I was in a bad breakup and whatever. Okay, so so the next thing is turn the car into a source of hysterical fun. And how could the picture that you see, that you can transform it, that it made you roar with laughter? You're lying on the floor, laughing your head off, okay, holding your stomach. What could that car do that's so very funny?
I turned the car into raspberry jelly.
Yes, yes.
It's all
going like that, you know. That's funny, yeah. Fine.
And tasty.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So this is what your car is capable of doing. Yeah, but I think only the boot, only the boot, and the rest will stay, because later on you want some more raspberry jelly, don't you? and because it's funny, it's funny, and it makes you laugh. And this is another emotion. You need to laugh and be fun. So finally, invent an embarrassed moment involving the cake. Participate in an activity and imagine the feeling of utter embarrassment. So you're really embarrassed afterwards.
I'm embarrassed.
Yeah.
I was going to take a lot of joy in doing something that other people would be embarrassed by.
Good joy.
My joy of creating a potentially embarrassing but actually joyful situation is where that old cake, the old one that had the poisonous stuff in it that was not good for my body.
No.
I know what to do with it. Instead of eat it, I just put my hands into it.
Okay.
Maybe I might make a little cake castle.
Yes.
And it's going to be very gooey and gross, and other people will be mortified because they think it's food, but I know it's not food.
Okay. So it's poisonous, yeah?
Well, it's not poisoning my hands.
Oh, okay.
It's sugar and wheat, and those happen to be my and some others particular things that we got do things with, except molding sandcastles out of cake is
exactly, because
a wonderful
when you're actually using your hands, so when you're actually moving your body, moving hands, there's someone, that's his catchphrase, when the body moves, the brain grooves.
Oh, I like that.
I like that too. That's easy to remember. Okay, you'll hear it once and then it's enough. So when your body moves, your brain grooves. That's your hands or your body, you know, anything dancing, it really helps your brain. So what we've done is, we've done 5 things so far, okay? So we made it visual. We made it unusual. We made it 3-dimensional. We stimulated all our senses. And we have initiated our emotions. 5 things, okay? So as soon a piece of information has been given, these 5 characteristics, it can be connected with others in a memorable pattern. And it's like inventing a cake. But just a moment, it's getting a little bit now too much reading here. And I want to get into something else after this. Okay, so that's it. So to link these 4 words together into a story, you might imagine open this, and this is what where you at right at the beginning. You did this, what I'm talking about now. Okay, so opening up the box to find a tiny tree inside, and you could take you could take this tree and fix it in the rear view mirror. You know those kind of trees that have a smell?
Oh,
Okay, and you hang them on your rear.
a lot of us are deathly allergic to.
Yeah, but this one smells really lovely.
This is a natural
it smells
scent.
of moss. It smells of bark. It
Yes.
smells of fungus. It smells.
It's not chemical. It's totally. It's a natural, beautiful smelling tree.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Good clarification.
And then you drive off straight into a giant cake sitting in the middle of the road.
Oh gosh.
And you had to destroy that cake because only you knew that it was poisonous, and you wanted to help that other people don't eat that cake. But other people found it really funny because now your cake is full of that poisonous cake, your car. Okay, so
what an image.
So yeah, so you think of the box and you remember finding the tree. You think of the tree and you recall fixing it in your car, and you picture yourself driving off in your car, and you remember how you felt when you smashed into the giant cake. So you've got box, tree, car, cake. So
and then the fungus in the bark helps to clean up the poison in the cake, and then we have a nice environment.
That will be the solution of it. Well done, right? So however long this list is, you only need to deal with one item at a time, you see, and you make the links. If you make these links strong enough, it will take you to the end of the story. So
it's a story, yeah.
Right. So so how can you use this practically? Okay, there are words like salutagenesis, canonization. So how do you? So that sounds to me like boxtica cake. So if somebody says to me boxtica cake, I say, hang on a moment. The first syllable sounds like box. I know a box. Tree sounds like tree. Like, you know, I know a tree. And the next syllable is like car. I know what a car is. The next syllable sounds like cake. So this is what we just did. We looked at syllables of words, turned them into a picture, made this elaborate these elaborate exercises out of it, you make it visual, make it unusual, make it 3D, use our emotions using our senses. 5 of these actions made a long, complicated, amazing story out of it, and so we can remember a 4-syllable word that sounds like boxtica cake or salutagenesis. Isn't that the same?
Well, there are syllables that we can recognize as related to other things in our lives, or other words that we recognize, or other pictures that we can make.
That's
if we
right.
break the word
So,
down.
so this is how you can use your imagination. Okay. So this is what I discovered. So that's the exercise.
Beautiful.
That's the exercise for today. But just in general, I would say let's use our imagination a lot more because it frees us up. Okay, we all have you know, somewhat dysfunctional brains, and anyone who has had education in school, most of us, we are all damaged. Okay,
Anyone
and
exposed to environmental contaminants,
right,
bad air quality,
yeah.
building materials,
And
and
you
on
taught
and
me more horrific things of how damaged memory can be with people, and I hope they recover and come back to themselves. And as I said, uh, my tip or my advice is to hold yourself for as long as you can. I'm enough. I'm enough. But you need to have a reflection of some kind. You need to see yourself somewhere in a glass or whatever. Or
sometimes when people don't have access to mirrors or something like that,
water
sometimes
reflection or something.
they might have a device that they can see themselves in, or
Yeah,
sometimes
that's
they
it.
can
Exactly.
communicate with
That's what
others who reflect in words
So
what
it's
they're
about, because you need to look
experiencing.
into, you need to look into one eye. You need to look into your eye and say, I'm enough,
Mhm.
right? You don't have to smile with it, but I do. Okay. Smiling, for example, if you do for 2 minutes, just this is not a real smile. This is just like a weirdo smile. Okay. So when you move, put pressure on this muscle, on these nerves, um, the brain doesn't know the difference if you really smile because you're happy, or if you tensioning up your muscle. Okay, so it's just a muscle. You do this for 2 minutes, like just like that, then that sets serotonin free, and you're happy.
Oh, I don't know if I've heard someone describe exactly that process before. Like, I knew the basics of it, but I like thank you for those specific details.
That's why I smile all the time, because it makes me happy. But I smile because I'm happy, and it makes me happy because I'm smiling. So it's a
Feedback loop. Like we
feedback
were
loop.
talking about feedback loops.
So I don't know if there was a chicken or the egg first. I don't know. But I definitely today it was box tree car cake. First the box, then the tree, then the car, then the cake. And then now, from now on, can other syllables come in other words. So now you're freed up, and nothing can stop you anymore to remember words if you do it
So
this
that
way.
this is, so you were talking in the middle of our conversation about aiming for permanent memory. Are these the components, are these your basic components for getting to permanent memory? Would you say
No.
that's not where we're at yet,
Absolutely
but
not.
these are the
Absolutely
beginning?
not. No. Those are just learning methods. They're learning this is the learning method, okay, that we can use for school, to learn words like canonization or salutogenesis, or any word, okay, a jargon word, or a word that you need in your exam or test, okay. And I just give you an example. There was a real woman, a participant like you, okay, but out of different reasons, okay. And she got a job at an optometrist, like an optician, and she had to give a lecture or whatever about frames of glasses, okay. And I said, okay, let's do it. Like she's in my course, and why should she do it herself? So I said, come on, let's do it. Okay. She had 2 children, and after 45 minutes, she had to stop because of her children. Otherwise, we'd have gone on. Okay. So I have taught her exactly this. I taught her. This is called not called anymore imagination training, whatever. From now on, it's called box cake, the box cake exercise. Because if you can do this, you can do anything. Nothing can hold you back anymore now from this point on. When anyone who has done this, nothing can hold them back. Could it be? As long as you use that, nothing can hold you back. So so I said, okay, so what's the first word? So she gave me the first word. So we use this technique, and then she gave me the second word, and then her children disturbed her, and then we had to stop. Okay, and the word was amor fou. That means love crazy or crazy love. That's the name of this frame. Okay, and she had to do 9 more, but we didn't have the time. I didn't have to put this into my permanent memory. Just like for the rest of my life, I will never ever forget Boxchika Cave. It's impossible. And I'm even teaching it. I could teach this all totally from memory on the street to a stranger if they're prepared to listen for 1.5 hours.
This is a wonderful way to get started talking about memory. I should say to you, I thought about mentioning to you, and I didn't, because I didn't know what would happen. And I thought, well, let's be brave. Let's just go and do it. I thought maybe we should shoot for a 15-minute phone call or a 20-minute phone call. And then, but these are our modalities, and the way you describe them, it's not exactly how we describe them, but it's very complementary. It's very resonant with what we're already benefiting from. And it has been very hard for us to find people speaking enough of our language to interact with. So it's really a blessing to be on this path and to get to share it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, cool.
What is this? We've been on the line for almost 90 minutes, and that's pretty epic for me. And it's about that resonance and being in a conversation that is inclusive.
A normal course sitting is 1.5 hours. Okay, 90 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll remember for next time.
And this what covers one exercise, one such exercise. Okay. But if one wants to progress in the course, okay, one has to do 3 hours. 3 hours. But you see, I know about promoter techniques, like, for example, you would sit for 25 minutes and then we have a 5 minutes break. But my experience is when people have gone away for a break, if you give them 5 minutes, they take 15, and then it's very difficult to come back into the flow of it. So the flow of something is roughly, that's my experience, it's my life experience. It's the session is 3 hours, okay? So you have to be fed and watered before you come in, and have had a rest, and you have to be able to relax yourself. And this is also a very crucial point. After this kind of extreme, it's not extreme, but your emotions were involved, your senses were involved, your brain was activated, you're on a much higher level. You're on a much higher frequency now than you started. And now you also have to calm down. And I'm so glad that you do meditation and relaxation exercises. That's very important afterwards, to breathe, to calm down, and to relax. That's very important, to come back to yourself.
Breathing is good.
Yeah,
breathing is important.
Right. To do the breathing work. And there are many people out there who are experts in that, where we can learn a lot from. Okay.
I'm delighted.
Yeah.
I'm really delighted. Thank you so much for giving us this time.
It was a great pleasure.
It's a big deal for someone to offer to be in relationship with us in this kind of way. It is a way of demonstrating a litmus for trust and courage that we have had from almost no one, which is why we have the network that we have. So I just want to be really clear about how tremendous it is when someone does offer their time, show up in that in any way, but in the way that you're doing now. I certainly am really benefiting.
It's because of service, in the sense of I'm here, or we humans are here to serve others. Okay, so I'm here to serve you. I'm here to serve you.
I am looking forward to the next time that we can chat. Do we want to are there some of our community members will be able to follow up and look you up online, and many or most others cannot, but for the ones who can, Some are on Telegram, some would need to look up website stuff or something like that. Do you want to say some things about how people can find you? And
Yes, at the moment,
when we share in public also.
at the moment for the next 2 weeks, I do a 30 days challenge on Telegram, and that group is called Permanent Memory Sphere. Permanent Memory Sphere. That's the title of that Telegram group, and it will go on for another 2 weeks. But here on your channel, wherever you're standing at, it's totally for free. For others, I will make a huge, amazing offer, and anyone who doesn't take it, but because in the future it will be 10 times that much. You know, not because I'm then better known or well known or whatever. It's that I'll be working with networks, and they require that their members charge a lot of money. I know it's unfair, okay, but that's why it's important for me also to offer this for people who can't afford it, who haven't got the ability to afford it, or to attend something. There are people in our societies that don't have a mobile phone.
People who are cut off from economic participation, that is most of the people in our network too.
And
yeah,
how do
really
we reach them? We reach them through networkers or social workers who've got such devices, who can get 2-3 people around them and go over it. And but you see, the thing is that anyone, not anyone, but most people can go into a library. I have known of what are they called, homeless. Yeah, I've known of homeless people, smart people, right? They've been out, in the wilderness for years, and then they discovered the only way they can stop it if they educate themselves. They're actually going into a library, read those books, or go online and do their studying, and then 3, 4, 5 years later, they get their first job. Okay, but they've been marked through that kind of way of living, of similar things that you're talking about. And and then we do need people who help us, who listen to our dreams, not to interpret dreams, but to listen to us, or listen to our emotional upsetness, and and help us to find back into reality. Okay, and the most important thing is, I hear this again and again, it doesn't matter in what kind of pain you are, physical pain or psychological pain. It's important to acknowledge, not to run away from it, but to acknowledge that that's my pain, to get into that pain. And it is painful, it is unbearable, okay? But you will overcome it. Okay? So the answer is not always straight away to take tablets to numb that, but to curl up and to hold that pain and to acknowledge, that's my pain, to go into that pain for as long as you can. And it will go.
Belief and building relationships builds neurology.
Yes, relationships are very, very important. Now, I've deprived myself for many years of certain types of relationships. Okay? So it is only recently that I'm coming back into it. Okay? And although you have colleagues and so-called friends, okay, it helps, but it's not it. So we all carry our pain, some more than others. But it's very, very important, as you're doing, to really hold yourself, because you're very, very precious. And Um, you are more amazing and incredible than you can possibly imagine.
Yes, please, everyone who sees this video or who listens to this audio, please feel that in yourselves. It's important and it's true.
And remember, I really love you. I really love you guys. I love you, Max. Okay. I'm really from the bottom of my heart. This is my coming to my heart maybe for the last 6 months or so. I'm more in my heart now than I was ever before. And I don't want to do any advertising for anyone for anything. Okay, I'm just standing on my own here. Okay. I'm not speaking for anyone or want to push anyone in any direction. I have no religion, no beliefs that one has to follow. Okay. Um, and I just do things that work for the brain. So what works for the heart works for the brain and vice versa. And for the digestive system.
Oh, yes. Gosh, that's a topic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay. We meet again and make another appointment. It's, for me, it works really well.
I'm so happy. You really made my day wonderful already. We're not even halfway through it.
Okay. Okay.
I hope you have a wonderful day, and
You
I'll
too.
talk to you on
Yeah.
Telegram soon.
Now my evening is starting, so I have another session in about 20 minutes. Another participant, so that's private and personal, and this participant is very far. It is very close to the permanent memory sphere. So we are climbing up the ladder. Already taught some keys of which key um, opens which door, so you can actually go in there. And so the next stage would be to design and create that permanent memory sphere. And we all can do it.
This is my favorite stuff in the whole world. I love it
Cool.
a lot.
Right.
Please always tell me how I and we can support you. It matters to us because you are clearly showing up in support of us.
There's an Indian guy called Naveen, and Naveen Jain, Naveen, okay? He's a multi-millionaire, but it's not about money. And his vision is to settle, to bring people and have colonies on the moon. If that's not crazy, that's crazy enough, right? So that's why he calls it, any business venture, he calls it the moonshot. And the more crazy something is, the better. Because if other, like for example, my moonshot is, I want to help. I disrupt education, okay, and I want to help anyone. So I want that you, Max, spread the word. So here's a guy. He wants that people go into schools with a different mindset. Yes, get the information of what to learn. Yes, find out what criteria do you have to meet to pass this exam. Okay, but then don't be lectured from a teacher to get this information. You can find it on the internet, and you can learn it yourself through the box chupa cake technique. Okay, so now you've got this knowledge. Go into the exam room and ace the exam. Okay, so this is what I want to do. Okay, and then when you can do that, why don't you take it further and develop whatever you're interested in and become an expert in it. Okay, but for this you need permanent memory, right? So I'm here to help anyone for free or for very little money. Okay, with people like 10 people on one call or whatever, or 100 people, and to do similar things and to help them to open up their imagination, so that information can come in, and that that they can control their mind. So, for example, So for example, if you say, everything I need is within me now. 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 So if you say that, that's much more powerful than for your mind, and your mind will believe that, rather than listening to your negative loops all the time. Okay, they are there anyway, but you can. So it's not about ignoring it. You have to say, yes, this sucks, or yes, I'm not capable. You know, you have to acknowledge that. Okay, I hear you, you say, okay, but then you have something, you have to have something to hold up against. You have to say, no, stop. I'm totally capable of what I'm doing. You know, as I said, it starts off with, I'm enough. Stop. I'm enough. I'm not listening to you. I'm enough. Right? So if you say that to yourself, okay, it's a lot more powerful than acknowledging when other, you know, it's like when other people say something, and this is not the effect. I'm saying to somebody else, try this, but they're not listening to me. You understand? It's like I didn't listen to the others, but then somebody came along and said, you know, say, I am enough. Write it on your mirror, write it in your hand, have it on your whatever device, have it as a piece, write it on a piece of paper and have it in your pocket. And every time you grab in your pocket what kind of piece of paper, I'm enough. So you have it all the time with you. And then I don't know how long it will take you, whoever is listening, but it would look, I'm enough. You know I'm enough. I don't have to say it. But I say this still every day. I look myself in the mirror into my eyes every day and I say, I am enough. I am enough until I feel it. I need to say it twice or 3 times. The beginning, I had to say it 10 times.
And Achim, earlier you said, is it the chicken or is it the egg that came first? And every time you have repeated, I am enough, I go back to an old family joke where we reference the French, I am an egg. I am enough is an old family joke of ours. And the egg is like the sphere for me also. We often talk about our energy field that is like
there's the permanent memory egg.
I like eggs. Eggs are good.
And then one day you will hatch out of it.
Oh yes, and then one day after that we hatch out of another egg, and then after that we hatch out of another. We're always hatching, emerging and evolving.
Yes, this is evolving. Yeah. Coming from the inside out. That's nature, not from the outside in. Not you cannot put information. You cannot knowledge or experience from it's okay to live vicariously to ask other people, but you have to experience yourself. So the experience and the knowledge, it all has to come from within. And it starts with imagination. It starts with opening your heart and letting it out, because only then you let things in. And this letting out, it will eventually crack the egg, and you will hedge out.
That's beautiful thought. That's a beautiful thought.
Okay.
So shall I let you get to your next appointment? And I don't want to make you run late for your next commitment.
That's what I'm saying. I need to have a little rest now, because I've been at it now for 4 or 5 hours, and I'm getting a little bit tired now. So
I wish you very best resting and rejuvenation.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful evening.
Yeah, you too. Okay, Max. It was brilliant to see your face, and
likewise
put a name to the face and things. And we make another arrangement, another meeting. Because I stop now the recording.